Jesus first was moved by compassion, and then a miracle took place. What's moving us today? Compassion is the translation of that Greek word, shalom, Sam. Now, folks, normally I try to look at the Greek and I try to study it out phonetically and pronounce the word for you. But folks, I ain't going to do that. Or requirements, that have been placed upon them. Some are being moved by the obligation that they feel. Some are being moved by fear of what some will do or what some will say if they don't do that. But Jesus was moved by compassion. If Jesus was moved by compassion, I'm convinced compassion needs to be moving me.
All right.
Folks, if we are truly followers of Christ, we should be being moved by the same thing that Jesus was moved by. Paul told the Philippians in 1:8, he said, "For God is my record, how greatly I long after you in the bowels." It's that same word that was translated compassion, in the bowels of Jesus Christ. Paul was saying, it's deep down in me. I've got a longing for you. It's down deep in me that's moving me. He told the Corinthians in 2 Corinthians 12:15, he said, "I will very gladly spend and be spent for you, though the more abundantly I love you, the less I be loved." Folks, I'm talking about something that gets so deep down in the inside of us, folks, that it will move us to do right regardless of how the people respond. Paul says, "The more I love, the less I'm loved." But it's something deep down in me. I'm going to do it anyway. That compassionate Jesus that I'm talking about today, he was able to pray for those who were crucifying him while he was being crucified. I'm telling you, compassion is a very powerful virtue. I've always expressed the importance of faith in seeing miracles, and obviously faith is essential. But folks, Jesus was moved by compassion, and then the miracle took place. He was moved by compassion, and then the miracle took place. Let me show you some pattern here. Matthew chapter 15. Jesus fed, and here he's going to feed the 4,000 men plus the women and children. This time it's going to be 7 loaves and a few fish. But do you want to know why Jesus fed them? Matthew 15:32. Then Jesus called his disciples unto him, and he said, "I have compassion. I have compassion on the multitude." And therefore he fed them. He fed them. He had compassion, and then the miracle took place. In Matthew chapter 20, Jesus was leaving Jericho, and there were two blind men sitting by the road, and they began to call out, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on us. Verse 31 says that the crowd was telling them to be quiet. The crowd began to rebuke them and tell them to be quiet. But verse 34 says that Jesus had compassion upon them. Jesus had compassion upon them, and he touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. Jesus had compassion. The crowd was trying to get them to be quiet. I wonder how many of professing Christians today are closing their ears to the cry of the needy, telling them to be quiet. But Jesus had compassion. In Mark 1:41, Jesus healed a leper there. You know why? Because he was moved with compassion. What's moving us today? What's moving us? Is that longing toward others deep enough down in us to make sure that we move regardless of any opposition or regardless of any circumstances that might oppose us? Is that longing deep enough? Luke chapter 13, Jesus encountered a funeral procession that day. The only son of a widow woman had died, and as you might expect, she was crying. Luke 7:13, and when the Lord saw her, this is my Jesus, same yesterday, today, and forever. He had compassion. He had compassion on her. He said, weep not. Weep not. Jesus was moved by compassion. And in verse 15 it tells us he raised her son from the dead. Compassion first, then came the miracle. I hope you're seeing the pattern here. Could it be that some of the desired miracles today are not being seen? Not so much because of the lack of faith, but rather a lack of compassion. You referenced it today, Brother Spain, 1 Corinthians 13:2. Paul said, though I have all faith so that I could move mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. What's moving us? What's moving us? I'm talking about a love. I'm talking about a care. I'm talking about a pity for others that get down on the inside of us and moves us toward their good. As I began looking at these great miracles of Jesus, I kept seeing that word compassion. I kept seeing compassion. Probably or possibly at least the reason compassion isn't as common among a lot of the church world today as it should be is because compassion puts the focus upon the other person. It puts the focus upon the other person. I'm not saying there isn't some deep, intense longings among the church world today. But how much of that longing is for themselves? How much of that longing is for themselves? Because it's not compassion until it's focused on somebody else. Compassion. 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 If it was enough for Jesus, it ought to be enough for us. Compassion is not focused on how it's going to benefit us. Compassion is focused on how it's going to benefit them. It's a powerful virtue. If we're going to be true followers of Jesus, it's a virtue, folks, that we must, and I say we must, possess. That's one of the standards I believe that Christ has put in his church. Peter said in 1 Peter 3:8, finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion one of another, love as brethren, be pitiful. Be courteous. Colossians 3:12. Put on therefore as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels. Here's that word translated compassion again. Bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness and long suffering. Part of Micah's messianic prophecy is recorded in Micah 7:19. He will turn again and He will have compassion upon us. He will subdue our iniquities, and Thou wilt cast all their sins under the depths of the sea. Aren't you glad we're serving a compassionate God today? Aren't you glad that we are serving a God that shows compassion unto you and I? And if He is compassionate, we as His followers, we'd better be compassionate. We'd better be compassionate. How is our compassion moving us? Can we show evidence of our compassion? I suspect that I could tell you some things that I do, and you would probably say, well, Pastor, you show compassion. But folks, the question is not, am I convincing you? The question is it meeting up to God's standards? Is God saying, I'm compassionate enough? Or do I need to do better? How deep does our compassion really go? Is it a yearning in our bowels? Is it that longing so deep down